Dori Gold in Jerusalem, welcome to Hard Talk. Could this current crisis escalate into a wider conflict?
Hamas, in the last week or so, has been escalating rocket fire into the heart of Israel, not just the south of Israel. Nearly 1 million Israelis have been affected. Just Monday night, we had 80 rockets pounding Israeli territory. This is something Israel won't tolerate, but Israel is responding to a provocation by the other side.
How far is the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu under pressure from the hardliners in his government to take tougher action against Hamas in Gaza?
You know, I've known Prime Minister Netanyahu for many years, and he's a man who doesn't look at public opinion polls or listens to hearsay. He'll do what the country needs to be secure. The people of Israel deserve to have the peace, to have the quiet that any other country would insist upon, and he will sit with his national security establishment to evaluate what is necessary to bring about that quiet. You wouldn't tolerate this in London, you wouldn't tolerate this in Paris, you wouldn't tolerate this anywhere.
But I wasn't
talking rockets.
Yeah, I was asking you what pressure there was on him to take tougher action, and I'm not talking about public opinion here. Avigdor Lieberman, the Israeli foreign minister, has said he's ending his Yisrael Beitenu party's 20-month alliance with Mr. Netanyahu's Likud bloc because of his refusal to be tougher on Hamas. He says differences between the Prime Minister and me have lately become substantial and fundamental. It's not clear what we're waiting for. At the end of 2015, Hamas will have thousands of rockets. We need to stop it. Avigdor Lieberman's still in the government, still foreign minister, but those kind of pressures are very real for Mr. Netanyahu.
Well, I think these comments by the foreign minister just illustrate the restraint which the prime minister has exercised over the last number of days. He is wanting to give a chance to resolve this crisis without using the full military force that Israel can use and can exercise. But if all we get from Hamas is increasing escalation, more rockets, deeper into Israeli territory, then he will be left with no choice but to do what's necessary to defend the population.
Be that as it may, according to reports in The Economist magazine, the two suspects who you refer to as being behind the killings of the 3 Israelis are low-level members of Hamas who belong to a rogue group who have a history of acting independently. So they're not mainstream Hamas members, are they?
Well, that's an old trick in the terrorist world that's been used for years. I mean, you might remember there was an organization called Black September that was invented by Yasser Arafat's Fatah movement because they didn't want to be held responsible for Black September's terrorist operations. So, you know, when the Israeli security establishment says it's Hamas, you should believe it's Hamas. Our security establishment has intimate intelligence ties with many countries around the world. It's highly respected. And it doesn't assert conclusions that haven't been thoroughly checked out.
This is what you've done, Dori Gold, in trying to apprehend the 2 suspects you mentioned. I said to you, why not find them, put them on trial? But this is what Israel's done. You have arrested 539 Palestinians, doubling the number of those detained without trial or charge. The houses of militants have been blown up, causing significant damage to the larger family buildings in which they were located. 23,000 Palestinians were barred from traveling to their jobs in Israel. Any person from Hebron was prevented from traveling abroad. Since the kidnapping of those boys, more than 20 Palestinians have been killed, including 3 Palestinians under the age of 18. What do you say to that?
Well, again, I cannot verify the data that you're quoting, but I can say this, that Israeli military actions are consistent with the requirements of international law, and Israel's military operations are under the supervision of our court system, including the Israeli Supreme Court. So, you know, there are some people who are going to put out all kinds of data about what we're doing.
But it's not, are you denying...
But we are a legal society.
But it happened. Are you not saying that when the Israeli authorities were trying to find these 2 suspects you are so sure were behind the abductions and the killings, that you didn't carry out those kind of operations that I've just described? I mean, they've been reported just about in every report you read about. I mean, you know that this happened.
Well, you cited specific numbers, and I simply can't verify them.
What are the facts you have, then? What are the facts you have?
Excuse me. What I can say is that the Israeli army operates with the complete oversight of the Israeli legal system and the Israeli Supreme Court. So whatever we are doing and whatever data you're being given, is something which has been checked in terms of what moves we take on the ground, and it is a legal operation. It is necessary first to find those civilians, to find those 3 teenagers. That was our motivation. And now it's necessary to bring the people who engage in that activity to justice.
But I put to you, I said to you that the houses of militants were blown up. And you know that this is a policy that has been criticized, for example, by Hamoked, that's an Israeli rights group center, says this policy of demolishing homes is not the correct one. A person must not be punished for the acts of others. The chief victims are the occupants of the demolished house rather than the alleged perpetrator.
Well, again, there are Israeli NGOs that look at issues of human rights, publish reports, but for us, the ultimate authority is the Israeli Supreme Court. And if the military has to conduct an operation of that sort, it will, when it's approved by the legal authorities. Counterinsurgency war is not a pretty picture.
I wasn't putting that to you.
It's not a pretty picture
I
when
wasn't
3
talking about
Israelis are butchered.
I wasn't talking about counterinsurgency. I was putting to you at the beginning, why did you not, as Amnesty International says, the Israeli authorities must conduct a full, thorough and impartial investigation that leads to the prosecution of those suspected of being responsible in fair trials. I put that to you when you said that is what we are trying to do, and then I gave you examples of the kind of reactions, the response from the Israeli authorities, which have been judged disproportionate.
Again, Israel has its advocates, and Israel has people who want to criticize it and make a whole industry about criticizing it. What I'm saying is that we have state institutions that are respected around the world, and those state institutions are supervising this. In the meantime, we're now beyond this. We are now dealing with a full-scale attack on the state of Israel, in which 1 million Israelis are forced into shelters, are listening to sirens going off, and are facing rocket attacks in the heart of cities. By the way, a Hamas rocket attack at an Israeli city is a war crime. It's a crime against humanity, but I don't hear people saying we should indict the leaders of Hamas for what they're doing.